my YouTube channel on today, Inspirational Moments with yours truly, Senior Pastor Patricia A.F. Euwing of World Restoration Ministries. I honor God for your life on today. Today I want to discuss how to have vision in the valley. How can a person have vision when they are in a valley situation? The word valley basically means to be in a low place. Valley is something that is considered to be in between either high buildings or high mountains. How do you see yourself at a higher standard, although you know that you're operating at a minimum? How do you operate at a maximum when your spirit is filled with so much hurt, so much oppression or depression that may be taking place in your life, or you're feeling depressed? How do you see yourself above your circumstances? How do you rise to the occasion in a valley situation? A lot of times we are in a low place, but we don't know how to get out of that place. We don't know how to sharpen our vision, although we know we can do better and we feel like we can do better, but sometimes we just don't know where to start in order to get better. You don't want to get bitter, beloved. You want to get better. And so therefore you have to sharpen your vision to become victorious in that situation. We shouldn't walk around all the time feeling as though we are victimized. At some point in time, God does make a way of escape for us. And we should be looking to be victorious in any situation, not letting the situation take us to a place, but allowing ourselves to see ourselves above the circumstance. How do I have vision in the valley? I want to talk to you about a man in the Bible called Ezekiel. Ezekiel was a prophet whom God had begun to show a vision to. Interesting enough, he asked him the question, can these dry bones live? Can any of these dry bones, Ezekiel, that you see in this valley live? I want to go to Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, and it deals with the valley of dry bones. I'm going to start at verse 1, and it says, "The hand of the Lord was on me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord, and he set me in the middle of the valley. It was full of bones. He led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry. He asked me, Son of man, can these bones live?" The first thing that I want to point out is that every time we go through a situation, beloved, it is not always the enemy. It is not always Satan. It is not always somebody else. Sometimes God allows us to go through these situations so that it can strengthen our muscles. The one thing I want to point out in the scripture is that notice Ezekiel said that he, meaning God, brought me up and out and sat me down in this valley full of dry bones. Well, that wasn't Satan, that was God. God brought him up and out, separated Ezekiel from himself, from his self in the flesh, and sat him in this valley to test his vision, to test his faith. Sometimes we're in a valley situation, beloved, to test our faith, to see where we are, to see, even if we are in a low state, can we still hold fast to our confession that we know that we serve a God who's able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all we can even begin to think and ask for. Sometimes God will sit us in that situation just to see, are we still holding fast to our faith? Beloved, we want to be faithful in that valley, even though it looks like all obstacles are against us. And let me tell you something, a lot of times we are in that valley situation, and not only are we in a low place, but then there are all types of obstacles set in our way that place a veil up on our eyes that where we can't see ourselves beyond the situation. Many people have been and probably are still in a valley situation, but they still at some point in time find themselves in a place of thinking, you know what, I'm going to get past this. I'm still victorious. I may not have a dime in my pocket, but I'm still blessed. I have good health. I have my family. I have my job. I have my children. I may not can see myself having some extra money at the end of the month after paying my bills, but my bills are paid. But then there are those who are sitting in a valley situation and they simply cannot see themselves above. They simply cannot see themselves moving past where they are. Can anything in that valley live? Can those dry bones live? And the answer to that is yes, according to your faith. But the one thing you have to do is put your faith, your trust, and your hope in God. Do not put your faith and your trust and your hope in any man. Don't put it even within yourself. Make sure that you put your faith, You put that trust, put all of that hope in God, deposit it into God, because I'm telling you something, beloved, being in that valley situation sometimes brings upon suicidal thoughts. Sometimes you just don't feel like you can make it from one day to the next. But you have to lift up your head and you have to rise to the occasion and see yourself out of that situation. Ezekiel began to look around. He said, he walked me back and forth and showed me all of these dry bones. Many of us pace back and forth looking at our circumstances, and beloved, believe me, I understand. A lot of times it does look like it is hopeless, but it doesn't matter what it looks like. All that matters is what it is, and it is whatever God says it is, not so much of what we say it is, because a lot of times we have sight and we don't have vision. That's good right there. Having sight and having vision are two different things. When you have sight, you only see what is in front of you. When you have vision, you see what is ahead of you. Sightseers only see what is taking place right in front of them. And if it is not taking place in front of them, beloved, they're out the door. You want to make sure that you're positioning yourself around visionaries and not so much of sightseers. A lot of times we position ourselves around people who can only see what we have for the moment. Even if it is ourselves, we've got to strengthen our vision. We've got to strengthen our vision that we do not act according to what we see. We walk by faith and not by sight. We want to walk by the vision of God, the vision that God gives us, the God vision. How do I rise above the situation? How do these dry bones that have been placed in my valley live? Well, you have the power of life and death in your tongue. Because the one thing is, God began to speak to Ezekiel. He began to tell Ezekiel to call it off, speak it. And the bones will begin to come together. Life will begin to get inside of these bones. You have the power of life and death in your tongue. It's what you believe. A lot of times what you see is what you'll get. If you only believe that what's in front of you is all you're going to have, then beloved, that's all you're going to get. You want to see beyond your circumstances. You want to strengthen your vision in the valley. A lot of times we need to take that eye test that they give us. You know, the one they give us when we go to the doctor, and how they have the alphabets placed on the wall. I found it interesting enough that not just ourselves, but even the people sometimes that we surround ourselves with are only able to see the large letters on the top line. If you really want to know a visionary that you're surrounded with, or if you're a visionary yourself, you want to strengthen your vision to be able to see as to whether or not you can see those alphabets on the lower line. When you see that you can recognize those alphabets on the lower line, then you know, beloved, that you have 20/20 vision. You know that you have a sharp vision. Those who are sightseers can only see what is on the top line. If you ask them to go any further down on that list, they will not be able to see anything other than what they saw on the top line. And you know how they say that the fine print taketh away, the bold print giveth, but the fine print taketh away. We would be able to surpass a lot of things in our lives if we were able to, number one, recognize who and what it is that we're surrounding ourselves with. That a lot of times keeps us in a place where we can't see ourselves out of this valley situation. Today, I want you to understand something. That it doesn't matter how bad your situation is. It doesn't matter what your circumstance is. Yes, I'm saying that because I've been there and I know. And I'm not just talking because I read it out of a book, but I'm talking because I live this. I live this life, and I understand what it is to be in a low place. But I also understand what it is to fight and have faith, to believe that you can come out of that situation, that God can sharpen your vision. He can give you a God vision. You don't want, beloved, a good vision. In fact, you want to have a God vision. God vision sees above and beyond. Our vision only sees what is in front of us. It is such a big difference between sightseers and those who have vision. Sightseers, again, only see what's in front of them. And a lot of times as a visionary, you don't see anything in front of you. However, though, your faith will allow you to believe and see beyond where you are. I may not have what I need today, but I'm believing God that I will. I may not be who God has called me to be exactly in my today, but I believe God that I'm pressing to be greater in Him. I'm believing God that I won't be at this place always, that where I am now is not where I will be always. That, beloved, is having faith. That's having a vision. I see myself beyond. I see myself in a better place than where I am today. I know what my situation looks like in sight. But by faith, I believe God that I'm moving further into my promise, into the things that God has laid aside for me. The word of the Lord tells us in Jeremiah 29:11, he said, beloved, he said, I know the plans that I have for you. Plans not to harm you, but in fact to prosper you. God wants to prosper us. We've got to align our vision with his vision. We've got to come out of sightseeing and get to a place of having vision. Get to a place of seeing ourselves above where we are. See beyond the building. See beyond the trees. See beyond the forest that's before you. You've got to stretch your vision. You've got to see yourself in a better situation, beloved. I love the story of Ezekiel. And when God began to ask him, he said, can any of these dry bones live? You know what Ezekiel's response was, beloved? He said, for thou knowest. I love that response. He didn't say, well, Lord, I don't know. This is what I see ahead of me. He put it back in God's hand. He said, God, I don't even trust my vision, for you know whether or not these bones can live. And when he turned it back around and he showed God that he trusts God's vision and in fact not his sight, then God had begun to give him the command to speak to his dead situation. And as he spoke to those dead bones, the Bible said that they began to get up, they began to rattle, they began to come together. Skin began to get on the bones. Life was breathed into the life was given to these bones. You can speak to your dry situation today. You can speak to your dead situation on today. Remember, you have the power of life and death in your tongue. Can these dry bones live? Yes, they can. But it's according to your faith. See yourself above where you are. See yourself further than where you are in your today. And beloved, I promise you that it doesn't matter what your situation look like, according to how you think, according to your faith, you will see yourself at a greater position. You will be at a greater later in your mindset than you are in your present condition. Can these dry bones live? Yes, they can. Have a blessed day. I want you to know on today, it doesn't matter what your situation look like. It doesn't matter what you've gone through. God has given us vision in the valley. And you need to ask yourself on today, self, what are you working with? What vision are you working with? Whose vision are you working with? Because a lot of times we live off of other people's sight, what other people see. Two people can look at the same thing and their perspectives are totally different when asked, what do they see? You have to know and trust in the vision that God has given you. You have to trust in the vision, the God vision. Beloved, there is vision in the valley. Have a blessed and a prosperous day on today. God bless, and thank you again for tuning in to Inspirational Moments.